We have come to Damascus, Syria, the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world. Syria, a country in the middle of the Arab world, bordered by Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, and the Mediterranean Sea. We have come for a conversation with the president of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. He became president in the year 2000, succeeding his father Hafez al-Assad. We want to talk about Syria, its future, how he sees the region, how he sees the relationship with the United States, and broad issues like war and terrorism. I am pleased to have Bashar al-Assad on this program for the first time.
You're most welcome in Syria.
It is, in the 5 years you have been president, a remarkable time in the Middle East. There has been change in Lebanon, change in Iran, change in Israel. There has been change in Iraq in a significant way. Tell me how you see all of this change and the role that you would like to see Syria play.
First of all, I couldn't see Syria apart from our neighboring countries and apart from the region in general. We cannot see the region separately from the rest of the world. Second, I would separate between what we hope to see in the future of our country and our region and what's going on. I think what we'd like to see is like any other country, peace, peaceful life, prosperity, better living, better standard of living, reform that we've been talking about for years in our country. But this is our hope. Actually, if I talk now about the reality, it's going in the opposite way. More extremism, more terrorism, less chances for jobs for the common people. That means worse off economy now and in the future. So, but that doesn't mean to lay all the problems on the others. Like if we talk about the war on Iraq, if we talk about the West in general, we have a role to play, and we're going to play our role. But there's difference between when you lead, let's say, the ship, or when you drive the car, yes, and when somebody else sharing with you this car. So we have a lot of obstacles, some of them related to us, if not related to anybody else, some related to the international situation. So we're talking mostly about reform, political, economic, and cultural, which is very important as a basis for any reform.
At a time of change,
yeah,
every leader wants to be understood. Tell me how you want to be understood by the American leadership and the American people.
Yeah. They have to understand me by understanding my culture as a person. If they want to understand me as president, they have to understand who I represent, which is related to the culture of my people. So the problem with the West, if I may make analogy to two computers with different systems. If you talk about Windows and Apple.
Yes, right.
So
Windows and Apple, yes.
Yeah,
they said to me you were of the internet age.
Yeah, that's true. They do the same job, but they have different systems. So you have sometimes some software to make the translation between the two
yes,
systems. So we don't have to talk only about the events. We have to explain and analyze these events from our culture to another culture. That's what we want from the media in your country and from the politicians. That's how they can understand me, and they will understand that time that we need peace, we need prosperity, and we need the reform.
What's been the most surprising thing for you in exercising power in Syria with all of this change around you?
The most surprising thing was how the developing country, and in particular the United States, have this high technology to import the information, but they use it to export. This is from one side. From the other side, how much information they have, but how much knowledge they need, which is how to analyze the information. I think these are developing countries. They have all the means to know more about at least our region. I'm not talking about the rest of the world.
Sure.
But it's surprising how they analyze it in the wrong way. This is very surprising.
You think the United States, for example, with all of its technology,
Yeah.
doesn't understand what about you,
When-
Syria, the region?
As I said earlier, when you don't understand the culture, you don't understand the politics, especially in our region. If you don't understand the culture and the politics, you don't understand what decision we take as a leader and why, and what we say and why. That's why we always have this misunderstanding when we make dialogue with many delegations coming from the countries in the West, but especially the United States. They ask us questions. It shows exactly how they misunderstand our vision and our beliefs and our goals.
And the fact that this is a very diverse society,
Exactly.
with representatives from a variety of different
ethnics
beliefs.
and sects and religious and all that sort.
If you sat down with George Bush, you would try to explain to him
Of course.
Syria.
Exactly. And the Middle East, because as part of the Middle East. And I would explain to any American, as we do, why they failed in Iraq, why the situation is getting worse.
Why is that? Why did, in your judgment, the United
Yeah.
States fail? First, tell me why you didn't, when they asked you to join
Yeah.
with them in the coalition, you must have felt a lot of pressure.
Exactly. And
Your father had supported the war in '91.
there's a big difference between the two wars. The first war was to liberate Kuwait, and we supported the liberation of Kuwait, and we were against the invasion of Kuwait by Saddam. But what the United States is doing now is what Saddam did to Kuwait. They invaded Iraq. This is first, as principle. We are against occupation as principle. Second, I think some in the United States, could be politicians, could be decisions makers, I think they based all the situation of invading Iraq on their ideology, on some notions that they would win the war if they win some battles. And I was very honest with them before the war. I received many delegations, some of them from the Congress, some of them from the administration. And I told them, you will win the war, no doubt about that. The first war, I mean the military part of it.
You will topple Saddam.
Exactly, there's no doubt about that. But after you occupy Iraq, you will have chaos, you will have resistance, you will have swamp. You're going to sink in the swamp. And what I said, happening every day. So that's, I think, one of the reasons they fail. Of course, the misinformation, maybe they have different goals we don't know about, I don't know. But this is the main reason.
What do you think is going to happen?
Where, in Iraq?
In Iraq.
If they withdraw or if not?
If they stay.
If they stay. Now we have a pilot project. If we put the principles aside, let's talk about it as pilot project. They've been there for 3 years. What happened? We don't have any evidence that the situation is getting better, but we have all the evidences that the situation is getting worse. So what's going to happen after 3 years, it won't be different from the previous 3 years. This is logical.
Let me tell you what they would say.
Yeah.
The vice president or the president would say, we have met every mark. We have made a progress, and we've had elections, and we're now negotiating the parties, not the United States, to create a government that hopefully will build stability.
Yeah.
But each election has taken place as anticipated.
If you want to judge me as president, what I've done, you should first know what the people want. This is first. So who asked the Iraqis what they want? First. Second, if you talk about achievements, it's not what I said about achievements, it's what the people say, that I achieved something for them. So first of all, did the Iraqis have their say in that? I wouldn't listen to any other official or any other person from outside Iraq, because Iraq belongs to the Iraqis. Yeah. So you have to ask the Iraqis first, not any other one. But nobody asked them. Of course, in some reviews, I received many Iraqis.
You don't doubt that most Iraqis are happy to see Saddam Hussein gone?
If you talk about minority or majority, I don't have any clue. But there's a big difference between Saddam is gone and my country is occupied.
Yes.
So there's no sense of linking the two things together. If we say Saddam has gone, why? Because he's a dictator, so what? He killed hundreds of thousands. So what did this war kill? Nearly 200,000. So I want to get off of this dictator to protect you and killing another 200. So there's no logic. So what if he's gone?
You know, that's too high a price, you think, to
Exactly.
overthrow a regime.
Yeah. At least whatever price you want to pay, who's going to pay the price? The people, the Iraqis. So you have to ask them, do you want to pay this price or not? If they say we are ready to pay the price, this is their country, they have the right. But I'm not the one, as a Syrian or as American or as anyone in this world, to put myself to talk on their behalf that this is good price and this is good result. They are responsible about this.
At the beginning, it is said that there was cooperation after 9/11 between your government and the U.S. government.
Yeah.
There was intelligence shared.
Exactly.
Because your government, because of its observation of the Syrian Muslim Brotherhood, understood their relationship with Al-Qaeda, understood organizations, and provided helpful information. There was even talk of a backdoor policy in terms of the CIA sharing information. It is said that information from your government was helpful to the American government in preventing some attacks, Bahrain and other places.
That's true.
Why did that stop? What happened?
Actually, first of all, I took the initiative after the 11th of September to help the American. Why? Because we have the notion for decades that this terrorism, if it attacks, let's say in your country, in the United States, in East Asia, in Africa, someday it will attack in Syria. So the terrorism is like the internet, has no borders.
And you have the same fear of terrorism that the United States does, that governments in Europe do.
Because what happened in New York, it may happen in Syria. So that's why we said we have to move now, because we tried in the 80s to convince some European countries that we have to make coalition against terrorism. That time nobody cared about what we said. Because now, after the 11th of September, most of the world is convinced about this idea. We said, let's move. So we started this cooperation, and we told them, I told one of those officials in the CIA, you have the information, but we have the knowledge. Because as you said, we defeated this current. It's not organization.
The Muslim Brotherhood.
Exactly, but it's not a matter of organization, what you call it, or person or group. It's a state of mind. We have to know the culture to know how to fight the state of mind. Because those terrorists, they use any cause, they assume it as a mantle, to use it to make terrorist acts. So we know what mantle they assume, and we know how to fight this and to deal with it. So they committed many mistakes in dealing.
The United States.
Yeah, in the United States, regarding the security issue. But this wasn't the main reason. The main reason that you cannot have good and normal and sophisticated kind of cooperation between the intelligence, at the same time you have anonymity in the political field. So you said we either have normal relation in the whole field as a basket, or let's stop this cooperation.
So you wanted them, in exchange for information and hopeful knowledge, that they would give you what that they did not give you?
At least don't be against us. We don't want anything from them. But at least not to work against Syria. First of all, in the peace process, we talked about peace. We need peace. This administration doesn't care about the peace or peace process.
Which peace process?
Peace process between Syria and Israel that started in 1991. It's paralyzed now. We have daily bloodletting in our region, in Iraq and in Palestine, in the territory, occupied territory in Syria and Lebanon. They try to make embargo on Syria while they want us to help them in the security issues. They try to prevent any kind of support from European countries to Syria. They work against the association between Syria and the EU. They prevented even private companies to come in Syria and help in the development in our countries.
You know, they were doing this in your judgment because you didn't join in the coalition to fight Iraq.
To fight in Iraq. That's something we wouldn't do.
Now here's what else they will raise. They will say part of our problem with you is your support of Hezbollah. We in the United States, they say, believe Hezbollah is a terrorist organization. We believe that it provides weapons to the Palestinians and to terrorist organizations that are part of the Palestinian community. And you don't stop them. You support them, encourage them, don't stop them.
Yeah.
You support them in Lebanon as well.
First of all, whenever you have occupation, you will have resistance. We don't make it in Syria. This is axiom, truism. I don't know if it's clear.
Yes, it is.
So it's self-evident anyway. So this is the reality. They have to understand this reality. If they like it or not, it's a reality. If
the reality is what?
That whenever you have occupation, you have a resistance. Hezbollah and Hamas and Jihad became existence, I think Hezbollah in the 80s, mid-80s, Hamas Jihad, I don't know when, but because of the occupation of the Palestinian territory and the Lebanese territory. So this is something Syria didn't make. But if you ask about the support, the whole region, the people support the resistance. If somebody in the United States or some people call them terrorism, it's labeled, but we don't recognize this label.
Let me understand.
Yeah.
If the United States says Hamas is a terrorist organization, you say that's not the way we perceive them. We perceive them not as a terrorist organization.
Exactly.
So no matter how much they have done with respect to Israel, no matter how many suicide bombings and terrorist activities, you don't identify Hamas as a terrorist organization.
If you want to see the picture, you have to see the whole picture. If we talk about violence, let's talk about 4,000 Palestinians killed during the last 5 years, while from the other side, from the Israeli side, few hundred killed. So if you want to talk about the violence, and you call this violence terrorism, Israel killed more Palestinians than the Palestinians killed from Israel. This is first. Second, you have to see both sides. You talk about Hamas, what they did in Israel, but they don't talk about Israel and what they did in the Palestinian territory. They commit assassination from time to time and in public, and they say they were going to kill. So it's the whole picture. Anyway, doesn't matter what label we put. And if we want to have solution, we have to deal with the facts, not with the terms.
Yes.
Whether they are terrorists or not, this is not the problem. We have to deal with the facts. And the fact, if you don't have peace, you will have more bloodletting. So we don't support violence in Syria. This is another aspect of the story. We don't support violence, but we support...
You don't support Hamas. If Hamas is engaged in suicide bombings, you don't support it. If Israel is engaged in acts of occupation that are destructive of life, you don't support it.
The word support, I mean we don't encourage.
Yes.
We support them politically because they have the right to have their own state. They have the right to have their own land back. They have the right to implement the resolution, the Security Council resolutions. Yes. That's what we support.
Do you think there'll be a democracy in Iraq?
That depends. So how do I see it now? Is the democracy more important than chaos? What is it based on? On better off economy? On safety? On what? What the benefit of democracy if you don't have the essentials? The essential things in that society. Democracy is not everything. It's a tool. It's a mean you use it to have better situation. You don't use it just to say that you are democratic.
There's no democracy in Jordan. There's no democracy in Saudi Arabia. They had an election, but the results were in Egypt.
The elections is the end result of the democracy. The democracy is how the people think. How do they accept each other? This is the democracy. In diversities. In a mixed societies like our societies, you will have different democracy than what you have in your country.